our friend from the state of Massachusetts, who is probably just as tough as New Jersey, Mr. Capuano.
For the first time in my life, I have no intention of being as passionate as the gentleman from New Jersey. I thank the gentleman from California for yielding. I was going to walk people through this because, to me, good people can disagree. Reasonable people can disagree. Even people I disagree with vehemently. That's what politics, that's what government, that's what life is all about. But you're not entitled to forget history or to ignore facts. And for me, there's been lots of misrepresentations the last week or two because there's a lot of passion, a lot of emotion. But I need to back up a little bit. Educational value. When I'm told that Democrats have to come to the table and compromise, my answer is, well, we have. Repeatedly. And we will do it again if necessary. And people say, well, no, you haven't. The President's saying, no, you won't negotiate. Well, no one will negotiate on this issue at this point in time because we've already gone far enough, and here's why. 2011, the last super committee, where did it come from? It came from a budget impasse. We couldn't come to an agreement. We couldn't make a deal. We had taken our corners. What did we do? Created a super committee, and if they said if the super committee doesn't work under the, and do something like Simpson Bowles or whatever they would come up with, then we would institute a sequester. And a sequester, for all intents and purposes, is an across-the-board cut of roughly 8% per year, every year, for 10 years in a row. That's what it is. At the end of that 10th year, if you don't do anything, you'd be spending approximately 48 cents of every dollar you were spending when you started. Now, I understand that some people want a government that does that and the programs that would pay for. I don't agree with that, but that's a reasonable position to take. I don't want senior housing. I don't want childhood nutrition. I don't agree with it, but it's a reasonable position to take, and we should argue about that, and we should debate about that, and the American people should have an opportunity to elect people that agree or disagree with them on those types of issues. We couldn't come to an agreement. So the sequester took place. And the sequester set out numbers each year for 10 years. This is as much as you can spend unless you come up with some kind of an agreement to get around it. We haven't been able to do it. We've had the first year of sequester. We're about to enter the second year of sequester. Pursuant to the law that was passed in 2011, a law, by the way, that I voted against. I don't like the concept of sequester, but majority ruled, it passed. Pursuant to that law, in this coming fiscal year, we would have been allowed to spend a little over $1 trillion. Now remember, that number is based on an 8% cut from the prior year. So this already represents a cut, and, by the way, it represents a compromise, a massive compromise between Democrats and Republicans to pass that sequester. So it was a Democratic compromise with Republicans to cut the budget for 10 years in a row. That's where we start. This year, Republicans pass a budget of $967 billion, $100 billion below what the sequester allows. They're entitled to do that. And again, I can disagree, but I respect that viewpoint. If you really think the government can operate and provide the services the American people want on that number, fine. I will disagree, you will vote, pass it, and we'll move on. But of course, the Senate didn't agree with that number. The Senate passed another number. Here we are today. What's happened? The last week or so, you have heard pretty much every Democrat say, we want to vote on the clean CR, continuing resolution, that the Senate passed. The average American has no clue what we're talking about. Here's what they passed. They passed a budget that would allow spending of $986 billion. Now, to me, if you're going to talk about a compromise, sequester allows a little over $1 trillion. Republicans want $967. A compromise is here, a little over $1 trillion. Now, that would be a compromise on a compromise. But no, the Senate says $986, a compromise on a compromise on a compromise. What the Republican House leaders say? No. 967, our number. And, by the way, no health care. So, for those of you who've thought Democrats haven't been compromising, I'm here to tell you, in my opinion, not only have we compromised, I think we have compromised too much. From my philosophical viewpoint, I know that I'm the minority view in this House. So be it. I think the sequester was too much. I certainly think 967 is too much, and I think 986 is too much. You know why? My constituents want senior housing. They want children fed. They want young people educated, and on and on and on. They want veterans benefits. They want all the things that we do. Of course, no one wants to pay for that. I get that. I don't either. I pay taxes. I wish everything was free. I'm going out to dinner in a little while, hopefully to watch the Red Sox win this series, and I don't want to pay for dinner, but I guess I'll have to. Reasonable differences of opinion, no matter how dramatic they may be, a $100 billion difference, are realistic, they're honest, and the American people have a right to take sides. They don't have a right to say Democrats haven't compromised. This was a compromise. This would have been a compromise. This is a compromise. This is not. This is uncompromising. And that's why I want to come up here. And by the way, as one little point of historic note, I've been in the House now for 14 and a half years. This is my first special order. My first special order. And, as I said, I've probably missed the first inning of the Red Sox game, which in my district is close to a cardinal sin. But this is more important. This is more important. I'm not trying to convince anyone that my side is right or the other side is wrong. People have their opinions. I know that. And you're probably not going to change them. But I am here to say that there is a difference between compromise and capitulation. We have compromised 1, 2, 3 times to get where we are. And to get to this number would be 4th, and to get rid of health care would be not just 5th, it would be 5th and the end of it. As far as I'm concerned, this Democrat will not compromise further on these issues. It's time for the other side to compromise off of what they think the world should be. Thank you for yielding, Mr. Garamendi, and I yield back the balance of your time.
Capuano, thank you so very much. I think it's a tragedy you waited 14 and a half years to be so eloquent in explaining how we got to where we are, and the fact that the Democrats have consistently cooperated, compromised, and watched those critical programs that we care so very much about being consistently hacked away at and reduced, and in many cases all but eliminated. And now today we're in the 8th day of the shutdown of the United States government that used to be thought of as the most powerful democracy in the world. Well, at the moment it's a democracy that's not working. As pointed out by my colleagues, there was an election last November in which these issues were all fundamental in that debate, and the American people voted to fully enforce the Affordable Care Act and to provide the services, whether they're education, transportation, health care, and the rest. And here we are, a minority party in this House, and actually a minority of that minority party, driving an agenda that is an anathema to those things that I believe we need to do, and completely contrary to last November's election. I'd like now to call upon Mr. Ryan of Ohio, a gentleman that often joins us on these evening discussions. We like to talk about jobs.